Hello and welcome for Armenolobby, your radio program that covers politics and the media. My name is Nicholas Stavitian, and today we have the pleasure of meeting Kaspar Karampetian, who is president of the Euro-Armenian Federation for Justice and Democracy. Kaspar Karampetian has been a leading diaspora lobbyist in Europe for many years now. And our listeners may remember that we already had an interview with him, with Kaspar, just a few months ago. That earlier interview, however, was done in special circumstances. One of those journalists that help out with Azerbaijan's dirty work in Europe had tried to allege that Armenian lobbying in the European institutions was backed up by bribes to politicians and by other corrupt practices, and they targeted in particular Kaspar Karampetian. If those accusations had any grain of truth, Armenolobby would have been more than happy to expose them, but they did not and never had. They were just part of a disinformation campaign of a kind we are all too familiar with. At the time, you may always also remember, we had promised to come back to Kaspar for a new interview, this time about important things, about his actual work. So here we are. Kaspar, welcome back to Armenolobby.
Thank you.
Since I have mentioned the earlier libelous articles from last spring, let's get that out of the way for today, if that's okay. Has there been any follow-up on your side to his name was Boussois, I think I remember, to his articles and to his accusations against you and against the Armenian lobby more generally?
Yes, of course. We had contacted a lawyer who is specialist in media affairs and practices, and we wrote a letter. We used our right of reply at VIF, and we sent a letter replying to the opinion that had expressed as opinion. It was published in Lviv, Monsieur Boussois, and that was published, that opinion that we sent also as an answer. And I think that it had a good effect because many people after that wrote to us or called Lviv saying that it was a very good reply to Boussois, and that Boussois, whatever said, it became out that everything was a lie. But of course, this was not only our reply. We discussed with our lawyer, and I think this coming week we are going to submit a complaint in the civil justice of Brussels to continue it also in the court. Since Monsieur Boussois wrote a letter saying that it's an excuse, but in practice it said nothing, so we did not accept that letter he wrote to us, and he was willing to publish it, but it was not what we were expecting, so we did not accept that letter, and we are going to the court. We go until the end with this, and we want the condemnation of Mr. Boussois because his target was not only me. If it was only me, okay, maybe I would not go so far because I'm just a person or a person that is an activist, but through me, they wanted to disgrace all the work that the European Armenian Federation, the organization where I'm president, is doing all those years. And of course, through us, all the Armenian national committees and the High Tat, as we call, the work is doing, they wanted to disgrace. So we'll go until the end. At this moment, we don't know when it will be finished. But according to our lawyer, we have the grounds to believe that Mr. Boussois probably will be condemned. Of course, we cannot say. The judge will decide, but anyhow, it's our prediction.
Please do keep us informed of future developments. We'd love to cover them on Armenolobby and draw conclusions from this particular trial. This is our first interview, not only since the last one, but since the attack on the population of Artsakh and the ethnic cleansing last September. On November 6th, you organized a conference. On November the 7th, I'm sorry, you organized a conference in the European Parliament where there were very important, prominent lawyers in particular, intellectuals. Can you tell us a little bit about this conference, why it was important, and especially what conclusions you draw from those discussions?
We decided to have this time. Usually our conferences are with politicians, and people that are in international affairs, etc. This time we decided to have lawyers that are in international law because we wanted to see or to examine the legal part of what happened in Artsakh, because now it's very complex situation. Artsakh, Nagorno-Karabakh, there are no Armenians there. As far as I know now, there are only 27 people there. Until 10 days ago, maybe now they are less. But anyhow, Artsakh is empty from Armenians, and we have to see what should be their faith and what should be the faith of Artsakh. So we decided to have as much prominent as we could in this area. And of course, the biggest name was Luis Moreno Campo, the first prosecutor for 9 years of the International Criminal Court of Den Haag.
And then also Mrs. Massimo?
Of course, besides Luis Moreno Campo, we had co-founder and co-director of Lemkin Institute for Prevention of Genocide, Irene Victoria Massimino, and an Armenian lawyer, origin lawyer, Karnik Kerkonyan from US also, who is an international lawyer, and he has leading cases in such case that we are facing now. The target was that they present their propositions, they explain basically what could be the consequences of the situation, of the ethnic cleansing or the forced deportation of the people of the Armenian people of Nagorno-Karabakh, the legal consequences and the political consequences that we will draw from there, and to find out how we can continue in the future.
So in summary, what are the legal consequences or political consequences of what happened, and what should we be doing? We, I suppose, Armenians collectively.
In the same morning, we had a press conference in the press club where they explained to the media also, so in summary, let's say, what they are going to say in the afternoon in the conference in the European Parliament. And luckily, we had too many members of the European Parliament and of Belgian Senate and Federal Parliament present, and that was good for them also to hear and to discuss with us what we can do. And it was important that I'll come to what they say.
You can tell I'm impatient to hear you.
Yes, I'll come there, but for that I want to mention that just after the presentation of their cases of each one, we had a discussion with present members of the European Parliament, which was very fruitful, where they made some propositions, we made some propositions, and we decided that not now, after the next week, which they are in Strasbourg, when they come back, we'll have meeting with most of them to discuss how to proceed some propositions that they have done, we have done. Now, the basic conclusion to draw is that it can be justified, what happened, that it is a genocide. Why we insist now on the word genocide and not anymore to ethnic cleansing?
Yes, what difference does it make?
Because ethnic cleansing is something that happens. It's a fact. genocide is a criminal act.
It corresponds to specific intention.
Yes, and genocide, when you commit a genocide, you have responsibilities to bear. Ethnic cleansing, it's something that happened. Yes, you condemn it, etc., but there are no further responsibilities, legal responsibilities or other responsibilities. The genocide, it's not the same. Genocide is punishable, and genocide can have very tough consequences to those who do
You're
it.
saying there's no international legislation on ethnic cleansing?
As far as I understood from what they were saying, it's the genocide, the genocidal intention or the commitment of genocide that has legal consequences.
Right. So what
And
legal consequences?
That is to be worked on. This is the, let's say, principle of the genocide. Now we are entering into a new phase to see how and to what extent we can go further on. Of course, we have to see what the Armenian state will do, because it's very important. We are diaspora, but very important, if not the same, but it's more important, is the role of the Armenian state, where now are the 120,000 forced deported our compatriots from Artsakh. So also it's important for us to see what are the moves of the Armenian state.
It goes without saying, yes.
And we have to see and draw our conclusions accordingly. At this moment, both the three members, panelists that we have, Ocampo, Massimino, and Kerkonian, are preparing to send us back on the proposition and the discussions between them that we had, their opinions, how we should act. Besides that, we are going also to meet here in Belgium. We have also some good contacts that are important people, lawyers that are getting, having part in those trials in the criminal justice, criminal court of Den Haag, as it is Pierre Darjan, for instance, who is also representing Armenia. Next week I'll have a meeting with him also to discuss and see how, and inform him what we discussed in the European Parliament. And of course, we had some discussions off the record with those three people. And then I'll have also a discussion with Darjan and see how we proceed.
But so, is it right that what you expect that from your discussions, there are legal approaches to solving the problem? There might be legal approaches to solving the problem, i.e. through the international judiciary institutions, through, for instance, the International Criminal Court, or are we thinking also of working with legal arguments through political institutions?
Of course, this is the one phase. Our main job is the political. As an organization, we basically work in politics. We are not specialized in legal areas. We do not have the know-how. We collaborate with those people that will do it. But for us also, we draw conclusions from the legal case to use it in political level.
All right.
During our
excuse
meetings.
me for interrupting,
Yes.
but I think most of the people listening to us will agree that international law has proved its ineffectiveness in this particular context. This has been a slow-moving disaster. It's been 3 years almost since the 44-day war, since 2020. And Azerbaijan has been slowly tightening the noose around the neck of Artsakh, of Karabakh. And the international community did very little, and when it did anything, it was always too late. Isn't that a demonstration that international law is of no use here?
No, the international law has to play its role, but the law is implemented by the states and the governments. There comes our job also. If we have the decisions, how we work, how we put pressure on those who have to implement it, so that the decisions can work. Look, we have two decisions of international courts. Azerbaijan did nothing. At the same time, European Union also did nothing. And here we have also the accountability of those from the European Union that were mediating. Because when Mr. Michel says we are facilitating, this is not true. Facilitating means that you give them the room, they discuss between them, and you do nothing. But when you invite them, you organize meeting with Macron and Scholz, they come, and then you are the one who give a statement on behalf of them. It does not mean a facilitation. It's a mediation.
It's a mediation.
It's a mediation. And when you always accept the one part, and you know where it is leading, and this policy of integration in Azerbaijan that they were trying to have for the Armenians, knowing very well that it could not be done, because no Armenian would stay there if Artsakh was taken over by Azerbaijan. They knew it very well, and they were saying that to Azeris also. Toivo Klar has said clearly to Azeris that I cannot have a soldier in every house in Artsakh because Armenians do not trust you. He has said it in the radio of Armenia.
So he said this before the ethnic cleansing, before
yes,
the genocide.
before, yes. He said this last year. 1 year ago, he said it publicly in the radio of Armenia that I'm saying this to Azerbaijani officials. So they knew what was going to be done. And yet, they went on the same track. European Parliament, which honors its duty, the only elected body of Europe, has been from 2020, and before that also, has been after 2020, very vocal against Azerbaijan, what Azerbaijan is doing.
You're telling us that the result that we had was predictable and that the EU had at least some power to try and avoid it and didn't do it. Is that what you're telling us?
Yes. We were saying this now for many years to the European, and especially after the 2020 war, we were saying this to the Europeans we were meeting high-ranking European officials, not only the legislative but of the executive, and we were explaining to them what's going to be done. And it happened exactly what we were describing to them, and they knew what was coming.
Right.
And so they did nothing.
How do the legal arguments help us at this point to change that attitude?
Yes, because if you have court's decisions and these court decisions are not implemented by those who have to do it, and you still discuss with them and you accept them as your partners, then you have also accountability. And they have accountability, and we will see how we'll pursue about this accountability. Because in general, Armenia has been left alone. And there has been also maybe a wrong perception of the Armenian government what the West could do.
You think the Armenian government was too optimistic towards the West?
I have told it also to Armenian government officials, unofficially, of course, because officially I have not met them. But, of course, Russia did not do what it had to do. And it was not the first time we had this, let's say,
betrayal? Betrayal?
Betrayal from Russia. It was not the first time. We know from our history how they act. So Russia did what it did. They should help the peacekeeping force there. They could easily send away those so-called activists
Of course.
for 7-8 months there. They could do it very easily. There are 20 people there. They could do it. They did not do it. And then in many times there are cases that they helped the Azeris. Of course, during the last 2 days war in Azerbaijan, they helped in some villages. They helped people to get away. And 2-3 Russian soldiers were killed because they tried to help Armenian people. But those are some special cases, not in general what the Russian forces did there. On the one side, yes, Russia did not do what should do, and in the CSTO also responsibility that the CSTO had to intervene and had help Armenia. But on the other hand, all those attacks against Russia, official attacks from the Armenian government, verbal attacks, of course.
Verbal, yes.
And on the other hand, looking very much and very closely to the West, it's overestimating what the West could give us.
All right.
Europe does not have an army, cannot help us if Azerbaijan attacks Sunik. Cannot help us. United States will not do, and we well know very well what Americans said. We'll fight in Ukraine until the last Ukrainian soldier. So they will not send anyone to help us.
Right. I would. So this is a very interesting discussion, and there's no question that the Armenian government is facing very difficult choices, but balancing Russia, the West, and other powers. Geopolitically, Armenia is probably in the most fragile, dangerous place on the planet. Nevertheless, we're here in Brussels, and I'm interested in. I'd like to continue the discussion focusing on what we can get from the EU, what we should get from the EU. Maybe we shouldn't. Maybe we should keep Armenia at arm's length. Could you tell us how you envisage what key objectives we should have in Brussels in terms of the EU contributing to Armenia's safety, to the return of Armenians to Karabakh, to economic development? You define it. What should our objectives be?
Look, how Azerbaijan is acting the last 2-3 years, giving the impression that they can do whatever they want, began after the famous words of Ursula von der Leyen that Aliyev is a credible partner of the European Union.
I think reliable partner.
Reliable,
is the word,
yes.
yes.
A reliable partner, yes.
We all remember.
After that, and she was very much criticized in the European Parliament and from other circles also. And from that moment, Azerbaijan thought, okay, we can do whatever we want. They have the energy problem. Europe has the energy problem. And they say officially that we are importing gas from Azerbaijan to stop sending money to Putin buying Russian gas. This is something that they are lying to the people of Europe. They are lying to their people, to us, because when we speak with them, we speak as Europeans of Armenian origin, 2 million Europeans of Armenian origin, and we are not begging from them. We are asking them that they have obligation against us also. Officially, when I said to a high-ranking official of the European Union that, it's only 4% of European consumption, the gas that you are importing from Azerbaijan, he started laughing. And he told me, what you say, it's only 2.5%. You imagine with 2.5%, from which the biggest part also is Russian gas, which no one can deny it. So you imagine what are the standards of the European Union in approaching such cases. They are saying to our people, to the Europeans, that we are not sending money to Putin, we are to buy arms. On the other hand, they are sending to Baku, and through Baku it goes again to Moscow. 30% of the energy company of Azerbaijan belongs to Sokar. And do you know to whom belongs Sokar?
Of course.
So it's very clear.
But say it nevertheless. Sokar belongs to the Azerbaijani government, but also to BP, to British Petroleum, and the Russians also have investments.
Yeah,
in
the
Sokar.
30%,
Yes.
30%, no, sorry, I said Sokar, 30% belongs to Lukoil, sorry.
Yes.
And Lukoil, it belongs to Putin, we know that. So they had this policy, but the European Parliament twice asked for sanctions. And there are types of sanctions that could hurt Azerbaijan. And during the last plenary, when we had worked with many members of the European Parliament, and it was decided that 1 hour time that for questions and answers that had Borrell could go for who should be only for Nagorno-Karabakh, for Artsakh. And there, of course, 25 to 30 members of the European Parliament, when they spoke, they criticized very harshly Borrell. And Borrell said, as desperated, okay, tell me what to do. And all of them told him, start by sanctions.
Right.
Sanctioning Aliyev and his clan that have all their assets abroad, start sanctioning. That will hurt them because they love the money. They will hurt them.
We can be more specific. What kinds of sanctions?
The sanctions that were discussed, two types. The one is to start with persons, those who played a role in the starting of ethnic cleansing, which became genocide. Those who played a role, Aliyev or Hikmet Hajiev or the generals, etc., those who did all those atrocities.
So personal sanctions
against sanctions at the beginning of their assets in Europe, because European Union can do for Europe, but if Europe does it, United States will follow. And yesterday we heard that United States stopped selling arms to Azerbaijan.
Indeed.
The Senate and Congress decided unanimously to stop selling arms.
Is it right that it's the first time that they did not waive the sanctions against Azerbaijan?
From the 2002, I think it's the first time.
Right.
After 2002 is the first time that they did it. So Biden cannot send anymore until they change it again next year. Every year they have to renew it. So Europe could go there, but the members of the European Parliament went further. And they said, if you do those sanctions and Azerbaijan continue this policy, then we must go stop importing Azeri gas. They went so far. And Borrell was obliged, and twice he promised, I'll take this sanction case to the ministers of foreign affairs. We know that they have discussed. We are not naive to believe that it will be done immediately, because they should have unanimity, 27 countries, it needs unanimity. And we know that there are countries, I don't want to name them now, we know that there are countries that will oppose for the time being, and we are working.
I think we've
on
mentioned such countries before. Would it be Hungary, Italy?
Hungary could be, yes. Hungary, Italy could be, but there are one or two other countries that we are working now in these countries where we have committees, and I don't want now to say which countries for obvious reasons. But at this moment, we do not have unanimity, this is clear. But if something starts, a procedure starts, also this is important. This is a message for Azerbaijan that, look, there is a limit for everything. And people are getting tired from you to do whatever you want, to play with everyone, and to not consider anyone.
If you have sanctions, there has been a specific reason from the point of view of the EU and an objective. What would the objective of those sanctions be? In other words, at which point does the EU say, okay, you fulfilled our conditions, we'll lift the sanctions?
What we ask is that, first of all, it's what they have done. But for the future, there should be the right of return of the Armenian population of Nagorno-Karabakh, of Artsakh. But return how? Under international guarantees. There are some examples, as it is in Cyprus, the region of Varoshia, where the Famagusta city is, where it is under the control of the United Nations. Neither Turkish origin people of Cyprus, and also the the Republic of Cyprus do not have control there.
Of course.
It's under the control of the United
Nobody
Nations.
lives there.
No, nobody lives for the time being. But, of course, this is an example how to have it under United Nations control. At this moment, we are examining all the parameters of this decision. And we are trying to see how it can be implemented or not.
To be short, could we imagine sanctions until the situation in Karabakh, until the people of Karabakh have been able to return to their homes safely?
That's what I am saying.
Yes.
That the first part is the sanctions against those what they did, so that they understand that they will have consequences of what they do. And then when you ask, okay, those sanctions can be lifted or not, continued, or have harder sanctions, if there are those decisions of the safe return of the people of Nagorno-Karabakh under international guarantees to their homelands. Now, at this moment, we are examining what means international guarantees and how they can return and live there. This is something that it cannot be, of course, decided just like that. We have to see many parameters and cannot say it on air.
And I suggest we don't go into the details today of the mechanics of international guarantees, but clearly there would have to be international guarantees. So the return of the population of Artsakh to Artsakh would be one of the objectives that the Armenian diaspora should pursue. Are there other objectives?
The other objectives are that we must work. I can speak as European for the European Union and Europe, because I'm responsible of Europe. I don't speak for America or Middle East, etc. They can speak for themselves. So, in Europe, we are preparing a program for to give it to the European Union executives, also through the legislative, and wherever we have committees in those countries, to help those people to stay in Armenia. And to help those people to stay in Armenia means not to send them clothes or food or something that will be for short period, or let's say they give them money, $500 or whatever, and in 1 month they have spent it. No, to send enough amounts to have houses or shelters for those people, especially in those areas that they are close to Nagorno-Karabakh and go back easily from there, those areas that they can stay, those people. They have to stay in Armenia so that the right of return, it's feasible in the future. If they leave Armenia, the right of future will be lost. There are many countries in Europe that they have expressed their will to host Armenian refugees from Artsakh, Nagorno-Karabakh. We are now having meetings with them, and we are saying them, okay, if you're going to spend €1, let's say, for example, 10 euros, 10 million, I don't know, something, to have 100, 1,000, I don't know how many refugees you want, and you have to spend an amount for them here, in Belgium, in Greece, in Cyprus, in wherever, in France, wherever. Spend this amount in Armenia to create the possibility for them to stay there, to have proper shelters, to have uh, to try to make them learn new jobs, new skills, so that they can have their own incomes, not to wait from outside because sometimes it can stop,
Yes.
and help them stay there. This is also one of the lobbying work that we have started now and we are doing.
Very important work. And what response do you get from European government?
At this moment, we don't have any official response. Some 2-3 governments that we know have stopped their, they have taken out from their sites the ministers of foreign affairs that we are ready to host refugees from Armenia, etc., which means that they are starting considering what we said to them. But of course, it will take time because they have to see also through their embassies in Armenia what are the possibilities. We are working now with our colleagues in Armenia, in Sunig and Kegarkunig and Tavush area, to see what are the possibilities, especially in Sunig, to implement something like that. But this is not something that will happen just in one day. It will
Yes.
take some time. But we are pushing because it's not something also that it go in years, because no one will be there in years. It has to be quick, but it's not something that will happen from the one day to the other.
Right, right. Okay, so that's a second objective, which I think everybody will agree is of major importance, not just for the right of return of the people of Artsakh, but also because Armenia itself needs all the population it has. It cannot afford for more people to emigrate. And the future of Artsakh can only be secured if there are people there who are willing to return. Now, do we also have objectives relating to the security of Armenia itself? Can the European Union contribute through, for instance, the European Union monitoring facility? There's some kind of monitoring presence which is increasing all the time of the EU. Is that significant? Is that important from your point of view? Maybe the possibility of the EU arming Armenia, providing quality weapons to Armenia. Is all that significant, or is it marginal from your point of view and from the point of view of diaspora lobbying?
Every help is important. Nothing is marginal. But we have to see what is in reality, what is the result, the practical result of the help, of the monitoring mission. Europe says that the last period we do not have any violation of the borders of Armenia. Of course, now it's obvious because Azerbaijan did what they have what they wanted, and for the time being, for some months, they will not do anything. We know that. But the monitoring mission, as it worked until now, it did not do many things because there were 100 people. Of them, as far as I know, 40 to 50 people were administrative people, and they had to check 200 or 300 kilometers border only with 50 people, just by viewing from far away what's going on. And when we had the attacks on Armenian land, they were never there, because prior to their visit to an area, they inform Azerbaijan that we are going to monitor this area. So Azerbaijan knows what time they are there, and they are not stupid to attack at that time.
Right. So the monitoring mission is useful but marginal. And what about...
No, but it could be more useful. Now Borrell said that we are going to increase the number. I don't know to what extent and what more responsibilities they will have. But we have proposed to the European Union executive when they said that, okay, we cannot be everywhere, all the areas. We said there are some sensitive places that we know that Azerbaijan can attack there. I understand that you cannot be 24 hours there, But there are now technical possibilities that you can check and you can see who attacked and when they attacked, and then you can call for responsibility Azerbaijan if you have the facts. Now that you are not there, Azerbaijan says the Armenians attacked, Armenia says the Azerbaijani attacked. And you say to me, Mr. X, that how should I know who attacked first? Although I am sure that you know, I am telling him that. But if you have to use the technical possibilities that there are now, you can find out who did it. If they go there, of course, it should be more useful because Azerbaijan, if knows Azerbaijan that any moment
All right.
European Union will know, that could lead to consequences for Azerbaijan.
So you're proposing changes to the format,
Yes.
to the methodology
Yes.
of the monitoring
Yes.
mission.
Yes. This one is important. The next thing is, of course, giving arms to the Armenian army. There, I don't know what are the possibilities and what they can give, because there was a decree or law, I don't know what exactly, that Europe or European countries could not sell weapons to Armenia and Azerbaijan until 2020, at least that.
When you say European, you mean EU countries?
EU countries, yes, sorry, European Union countries, yes, EU countries. Now, after 2020, that things have changed in the region, and now that Artsakh has been taken by Azerbaijan, I don't know if there are other possibilities. We know that France sent some armored vehicles to Armenia, which I imagine they arrived. Okay, the armored vehicles.
And France not only has sent weapons, France is now engaging in military cooperation with Armenia.
Yes, I don't know
so
to what
there
extent.
will be training, there will be an audit of the Armenian army.
The training of the army, it's not something new. In
But
Greece,
the point is that the cooperation is very significant.
Such type of cooperation already exists. In Greece, as far as I know, and in Cyprus also. In Greece, but I know very well in Greece because from my personal experience, all those years that I was in Greece, from 1992, 93, when the Armenian army was created, every year are coming cadets from Armenia, and they are having their training in Greece. And now the last 10 or 12 years, they have also in the War Academy of Greece. They only from Cyprus and Armenia are trained in the War Academy of Greece. We know half of the Armenian officers have had their training in Greece, and this is not a secret. Everyone knows it.
Yes, yes.
And we have this in Cyprus. We had last week a common military exercise of special forces of Greece, Cyprus, and Armenia.
So if all this
together.
is going on, then the EU can expand military cooperation with Armenia.
Yes, I believe they can do it. I believe they can do it. This should be programmed, and it should be according to the needs of the really Armenian army. I don't know, because I read that those vehicles were not very important. I don't know. I'm not a specialist. I don't know. Maybe there are. But should be this, I think, should be. European Union has military staff. Of course, they don't have army. They have generals. They don't have soldiers. But anyhow, they have a military staff. I imagine, and I think that it should be the most efficient, should be that the Armenian Ministry of Defense should discuss with them what are the needs of Armenia, and probably they can, through the countries of European Union.
They can, but should they?
They should. Yes. I don't know.
So we've got
I don't know if they would, but they should.
We've listed 4 objectives now that the EU can or should pursue, and that the diaspora should press for: the return under secure conditions of Artsaksis to Artsakh. The preserving, helping the people from Artsakh in the meantime to stay in Armenia, provide the means so they can stay in Armenia under good conditions. reinforce the monitoring mission and help the Armenian army in all kinds of ways through weapons training, audits, and so on. Would those summarize the sort of strategic objectives, our strategic objectives towards the European Union, or is there more? Or are
Yeah,
there
there is more. There is more.
Okay.
And there also is the complete implementation of the SEPA, of the cooperation agreement between the European Union and the Republic of Armenia, where
That's a
European
trade agreement, essentially.
it's not trade only, it's the internal reforms also. And both of them are very important so that Armenia gets in a better situation. Because it's very important that the aid that European Union gives to Armenia goes where it's needed, and there it's important how the European Union representation in Armenia is monitoring it, the amounts that they are sending, how the amount is used in Armenia. It's very important that they do it because are big amounts. But I think that Europe has the possibility to give more, and to give more in vulnerable areas of Armenia.
And that's a job for the diaspora to get the EU to give more?
Also, it's from diaspora to put pressure on EU to do more, but also to put pressure on EU to check if the reforms that Armenia has undertaken by SEPA are going on. Because we have the fear that in the judicial sector, the reforms are not going very well. There are problems, as far as we know. This is an example. I cannot speak about all the sectors of the reforms because I am not there, I am not living there. I don't have personally the experience on myself or on my organization to know better. But as far from as I read and hear, on the judicial sector, there are things that should be done more.
Right.
Those things European Union could do. I imagine that with the new ambassador that they have, things will go faster, and every change towards a new situation is better always for the country. Nothing is worse. As far as we can help, we are ready to help.
Of course.
But the other side also must accept our help. This is also something that should be...
The other side being, in this case, Armenia.
Yeah, they should accept also.
Now, I'd like to speak, you've outlined 5 objectives, which I think are very inspiring, and they're definitely crucial, essential. They should be headline objectives. Now, you represent one organization, but that happens to be the only Armenian lobby in Brussels. How do you imagine, but the objectives you propose, I think would be recognized by people in most organizations. It doesn't matter where you are, and people in no organizations. They're perfectly consensual objectives. How do you work with the other structures, whether other pan-diaspora organizations, local community organizations like the Committee of Armenians in Belgium? How do you, but not just in Belgium, of course, all over Europe, how do you articulate your work with theirs? And I'm aware you have your local committees. The Euro-Armenian Federation has local committees, as you were saying, in 14 countries. But how do you articulate with all the resources of the diaspora outside of your organization?
Our main target always has been, and you must remember also from the period that you're president of the Committee of Armenians of Belgium, that we always want and try to work closely wherever it is possible and permits the statute of the committee to do in our work, in our lobbying work, or in any work that it's for the good of our people. We are still working very closely with the Committee of Armenians of Belgium, with CAB, and with the Assembly. whenever it's present. We have a close relation also with the embassy. We had and we have with past ambassadors and the current ambassador.
The embassy in Brussels in this case. Yes.
The Armenian embassy in Brussels, yes, which is also the representation to the EU. But we have also relations with not only with the central, let's say, Armenian organizations, SEAB or the Assembly, but other organizations that exist in Belgium. That
In
locally
Belgium,
they
but
can
I'm
do
not
it.
interested only in Belgium. You're a European lobby, right?
European,
So we're talking about Poland, Spain, everything.
In European wise, besides our committees in the 14 countries that do their work, we took the initiative to create the Europeans for Artsakh platform, which is now at this moment in 14 countries. And how they are represented there. It's not that just I decide to have Nicola Tavitian or Kaspar Karampetian or whatever. The person who participates there should represent the community. In some countries, as it is in Belgium, in Greece, in Cyprus, in Bulgaria, they are elected directly from the people.
There's already a representative structure.
Yeah, as it is here, the president of SEAB or of the assembly that participate, the same thing is in Greece. It's the president of the committee. In Cyprus is the president of the assembly. In Bulgaria is the president of the chorut, they say, I don't know English
Council.
how to say, the council. So in some cases, they are participating. In other cases, that we do not have direct election from the people community, we have organizations that gather the other organizations and they are recognized by the country as representatives of the Armenians. That we have in Germany, that's there, in Sweden, in France, etc.
So let's not go too much into the time is running out. Let's not go too much into the details. So Europeans for Artsakh brings together these different communities and representative structures. And what does it do, or how are you going to answer the question?
No, I wanted to explain how it is so that we do not have any misunderstandings, because it's very important to understand that this is a pan-Armenian work that we are doing. It's not a party work. It's not someone.
So that was the answer to my question. That's how you articulate your work with the other
with
organizations.
Everyone. Yes. We can have you and I different political views, even on Armenia, but here it's Europeans for Artsakh. We forget all the other things. Now,
so what are their objectives?
Their objectives, the basic objective says also their title, to work for Artsakh. On the 1st of October, we had in 24 countries, in 24 cities, big demonstrations, even demonstrations that we only during the war we had of 2020. The 25th took place in Spain, in Granada. For the first time in Spain, from all the cities were gathered more than around 400 people, and we had a demonstration. I was present there, a demonstration in Spain. With
Granada at the time of the summit, of
course.
Of
the summit where Aliyev also should come, and he did not come, but Pashinyan was there. In the center, in a place that was the center of Granada, there was the demonstration. We sent letters to all the European Union executive and legislative, but also the Council of Europe and to OSCE, with the signatures of 500 organizations, Armenian and not Armenian, with our demands regarding Artsakh. We had a delegation in last June, from 7 countries, and we met 2 very high-ranking officials of the executive to present the rights of our people in Artsakh. Because every time they ask us, okay, what is your opinion as European Armenians? And that's why we wanted to show them that we are not only the European Armenian Federation that it is saying this, but European citizens
course.
from many European countries. Now we are planning, I will not exactly, for obvious reasons, say now what we'll do, but until before the end of December, we will have more 3 or 4 initiatives with all in all Europe, organized by Europeans for Artsakh. Maybe in the next coming days, when we give out flyers, etc., it will be known what we do. But this platform, we want, and all of them want, that it was not just for 1 or 2 times. We want that it stays and it exists. And it exists and works not only at this moment for Artsakh, because our main problem is there, but if something occurs with Armenia, there also Europeans for Artsakh should be there, because one of the basic demands in our letter that signed 500 organizations was the territorial integrity of the Republic of Armenia. We will also work for the Republic of Armenia. And if something happens in diaspora, now we are concerned with what happens in Jerusalem.
Yes.
Maybe we come out with a statement or declaration for Jerusalem also.
Right.
Wherever Armenians are threatened, we should be there.
So you've got your work cut out for it, and every explanation you give us makes us want to learn more. But I'm afraid our time has run out. In fact, it ran out quite a while ago. I would like to thank you very much, Kaspar, for taking the time to speak to us here. I understand you're expected in 5 minutes in Mechelen. So we'll let you go. Thank you to our listeners for joining us today with Kaspar Karampetian, President of the Euro-Armenian Federation for Justice and Democracy. I hope you found this interview interesting and look forward to joining me again for the next program of Armenolobby on Belgahai.